Hello, Apso family. My name is Raisa, and welcome back to another one of the Wellness Wisdom Volume 2 author series. Today, I'm here with Mary Lou Tierney. Hello, Mary Lou. How are you?
I'm great, Raisa. Thank you so much for having me join you today. I'm really excited to be
Oh,
here.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for joining here today. So, Mary Lou, when on the show, we always start with one question, and that question is, who are you and what do you do?
So, who I am is I'm a catalyst of empathy and light, and I get to hold up a mirror and reflect back to others their innate beauty that maybe they've forgotten or they've never seen before. And I do that through my health and wellness coaching practice.
Oh my goodness, that is beautiful, reflecting the light. And why did you decide to be a catalyst for empathy? Where does that come from?
Oh gosh, that is just really in my DNA, Raisa. So the
Mm.
place where I can really tie that thread back to is my formal training is as an industrial designer or product designer. I have my bachelor's and master's degree in that field, and my master's thesis was I designed um, a pediatric a device for pediatric physical therapy for very small children for whom there was no product in the marketplace. And these were kids with spina bifida and cerebral palsy. And so it dates all the way back to them seeing there was nothing on the market for those little tiny babies who needed physical therapy.
Mhm.
And it's just who I am as a person. So I've been able to take that. I'm going to say it's just an innate talent of mine and apply it throughout my life, whether I've been in business as a manager with direct reports or anything else. I really love and care about people.
Oh my goodness, I love that. It's really amazing that, I have to say, with all the doctors and the authors in this book and holistic practitioners, it's really nice to know that you care about people. And like openly, it's supposed to be the obvious, but I think that there's such a beautiful, caring energy and personality that all of you have and that you yourself have.
Mm.
And so I kind of could you tell us a little bit about your story? Because it seems like, as working as a product designer, you have had these really nice things. And in your chapter, you're talking about, reversing Alzheimer's. So what is your inspiration? What was the starting point for you to move into this kind of health practice?
Mm. Thank you for that question. Well, in the book, I write about my mother,
Hmm.
who was this real trailblazer in her own right in the 60s actually, and she sadly suffered from vascular dementia, which is one of the six subtypes that Dr. Dale Bredesen has identified. Um, but what I didn't share in the story, but what was the real tipping point for me in 2017, I lost hearing in my right ear due to a cranial nerve malfunction, which I now um, have come to really understand has come from a lifetime of stress, from um, actually in utero all the way through my whole life. And then 6 months after that, I had had some very stressful life experiences, and an autoimmune condition emerged. So what I've come to really understand about the nervous system, which is the brain and our nervous system, is and stress is one of the key things we really have to pay more attention to. Um, so that was a real eye opener for me, also in terms of how I just want to say I never, ever, 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 ever blame traditional medicine. I also,
Hmm.
in trying to figure out my next steps, I got a certificate in medical coding and billing. And
Mhm.
for all intents and purposes, physicians' hands are tied because they have to follow this, the standard of practice. And a lot of the new things that is discovered is not yet in that standard of practice.
Mhm.
So just fast forward to 2020, was when I went to the Metabolic Health Summit and really got to lean into that space and understand, wow, there's so much we can do
Mhm.
just with food, lifestyle, just um, and why. Like I was like, Raisa, what rock have I been living under? Because I had never
Mhm.
heard of this before. And what was really powerful for me was sitting 4 days in that summit. And I was like, and it's a scientific, so day and presentation
Mhm.
after science everywhere. The data is there. And so I'm an absolute convert. And so since then, I've been trying to figure out, okay, what is the sweet spot for me where I
Mhm.
where I can really support people. So then learning about Dr. Dale Bredesen's work in the first protocol to enhance
Okay.
um, cognitive, enhance cognition and reverse decline at any age. And then what's really exciting to say is this book, for survivors of Alzheimer's, it's 7
Mhm.
stories that
Mhm.
people on the protocol who were suffering serious decline after some, some amount of time, they wrote their own chapters.
Oh, wow. So they were able to get back to it, and that's a significant change in, like, having those kinds of memories there.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
when you were, taking care of your mother and you had gone to, this wellness summit. Well, actually, let me ask this. So, did you go to the wellness summit first before your mother's decline, or was it your mother's decline and then you went afterwards?
My mother's decline was first, and actually she
Mhm.
passed away in 2009.
Oh,
So
I'm
it's
so
been,
sorry.
oh, thank you. I mean, it's been a while.
Mhm.
Um, and what I want to say about vascular dementia is it's suspected that she had had a lot of mini strokes. So
Hmm.
the point about that is, this is not simply a brain disease. Chronic diseases like diabetes, they actually call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes,
Oh, wow.
obesity, Alzheimer's doesn't just show up.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's other things that have happened. Um, so, but it was 2020, right before COVID,
Mhm.
um, that I went to this metabolic health summit. It was January of 2020, right
Oh,
before everything shut down.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
And so I really leaned into, so the breadcrumbs from there is that's when
Mhm.
my health and wellness certification is through Primal Health Institute, which focuses on ancestral health,
Mhm.
meaning, our bodies over thousands of years haven't really changed that much, but we've certainly gunked it up with our processed food and everything else. Um, and then I went on to get my certification for as a national board certified health and wellness coach because I
Okay.
wanted that. I just believed in that credential, if you will, is just to build trust that, I've been through a really rigorous program, which is focused on a
Mhm.
lot of ethics of coaching. Um, and then that led me to, so in 2021, I coached people with food and sugar addiction and was able to
Mhm.
successfully get them off harmful foods. Um, and then I've been coaching with Mission 22, so veterans or spouses. Um, and then Apollo Health and Dr. Bredesen offered a certification in the protocol. And so I
Right.
really, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm really leaning into.
So it sounds like And clearly, as your credentials have shown, that you've been doing a lot. You've been making a real impact. You've been getting your certifications. You've been, really leaning into this health and wellness and metabolic health and lifestyle. So, why did you decide to write the chapter? I love it. You're accomplishing so much. What was your inspiration to be in a book like this?
Well, the big thing was to spread the good news that
Hmm.
Alzheimer's is preventable and reversible. And I love Dr. Bredesen talks about his story. I mean, he's a neurologist physician, and he actually left his practice after a number of years. He says because it was so painful to
Hmm.
speak to patients, say, I don't have anything for you. So he
Right.
actually started his own institute in California. And this protocol is not new. It's been around now 11 years. There are things we can do. The problem is it's not covered by insurance because it doesn't fall under the standard of care. So we have a real gap in the US with our country, just in the way physicians are not allowed to prescribe this, so that's why it's so important to get these clinical trials done, and as we get more evidence. But
Right.
so a sense of urgency, because we're really um, we're in an epidemic of Alzheimer's. The average age of
Mhm.
someone with early onset. So the title of my chapter, right, is Two Myths and One New Belief. And the one new belief is um, we can prevent and reverse Alzheimer's. And the myth is it's not about age. The average person with early onset dementia, as of 2017, venture to guess.
I'm gonna say 25.
49.
Oh, okay. I was way off. I had no hope right there.
Well, okay, but not
49.
70 or 80. Like it's not, you
Yeah.
have to stop thinking it's an old person's disease.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that we learn a lot about in metabolic health is this thing called epigenetics, where
Right.
the way we live
Mhm.
turns on and off our genes, right? So just because you might have this Alzheimer's gene, if
Mhm.
you're living a lifestyle where it doesn't turn it on, you you can do that. But just
Interesting.
because you don't have the gene, if you're living a crappy lifestyle, doesn't
It
doesn't
can
mean
turn
you're out
off.
of the woods. So
Mm.
I struggle a lot to not scare people, and I
Right.
love what so that's why I wanted to write the chapter, is to just start. I've been thinking a lot about too, that metabolic health summit. For me, I use the expression critical mass.
Mhm.
Like, can we just keep getting enough information out there? And I say to people, don't just believe me, but go look up some of these
Right. Do your
resources.
research.
And because I don't want to convince people. I mean, they really have to get to this place themselves. But
Mhm.
I'm all about science-backed and evidence-based information, um, and putting that forward to people so that they can make up their own mind ultimately.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I think I agree with you on that because I think that when you can give all the information in the world, you can convince people as much as you want. But if they're not willing to take to that information, if they're not willing to sit with that information and say, okay, here's what I may have to do, or here's what I have to do, then it's just probably not gonna work. So
Yeah.
we do have one question here from Shami. Good morning, she says. Good morning to you too. And she says, "My question is how is diabetes a factor with Alzheimer's?" Because I think that was a reference to when you said Alzheimer's is like type 3 diabetes.
Yeah. So sugar is just causes inflammation and just does all sorts of bad things to the body and to the brain. So what we know from data is many people who ultimately get Alzheimer's
Mhm.
have had type 2 diabetes. So there is a connection there, and it's throughout multiple sources of research, and in the scientific field, um, you can, Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Bredesen, they are this idea that Alzheimer's is type 3 diabetes has been part of the language
Mhm.
for almost a decade now.
Wow.
And yeah, so
Okay.
there's definitely a very strong link between diabetes and Alzheimer's scientifically.
Interesting. Yeah, it reminds me of even yesterday's interview. I really like how you tied that together. And thank you, Shami, for um asking that question. Thank you to those who are watching with us this morning. Um, and so yeah, so it reminds me what you're saying. It reminds me of the interview that we had yesterday too with Josh Rimini, because he was also talking about chronic conditions, and today you're talking about epigenetics and how, the way you live turns on and off certain genes, and we were talking about basic lifestyle changes. So specific to Alzheimer's, are there lifestyle changes that we can that have long lasting effects?
Absolutely. So what I want to share with folks is, so through Apollo Health, or so the RECode means, excuse me, reversal of
Mhm.
cognitive decline, and there's like 7 steps for that.
Ooh.
And they also talk about PRECode, which is prevention of cognitive decline. And this would be, so the other thing I want to say is, what neuroscience is now telling us, that functional and structural changes in the brain are
Mhm.
happening 20 to 30 years before symptoms ever show up. So we are
Wow.
talking about, Raisa, yes, as early as the 20s,
Mhm.
you could see different um, things are happening in the brain. And I just also want to go on record saying that I am so concerned about the impact of the pandemic on people's nervous system
Mhm.
and stress, and that people are in a chronic state of stress. So what's also happening then is the adrenals are just pumping cortisol in the body constantly, and that is so harmful to us.
Right.
So for prevention, it's nutrition,
Nutrition,
movement, and I make a
movement,
movement, sleep, and stress.
sleep,
Okay,
and
so
stress.
yeah, nutrition, movement, sleep, stress. So really quickly, um, the on the nutrition side, and maybe some
Mhm.
of your other guests are talking about this. We're talking low carb, moderate protein, high healthy fats. I don't like to use a, a diet word at all.
Mhm.
Basic story is our brains love, so the standard American diet or the Western diet is
Mhm.
very high in carbohydrates, which is whether it's ice cream, potato chips, a potato, that all breaks down as glucose or sugar in the body.
Right.
Okay, our brains love ketones as an energy fuel. So you can think of sugar as dirty fuel and ketones as clean energy. And
Mm.
when our body is making ketones for energy, that our brain loves that. So one of the things, this protocol talks about it, they call it the keto flex 12-3. And what does that mean? Um, no eating 3 hours before bed,
Mhm.
and at least 12 hours from your dinner the night before to your first meal the next day.
Hmm.
I'm going to tell folks right here too, I tell my clients there's so much mis and disinformation out there. The only site I send any of my clients to as it relates to the ketogenic diet is one called the Charlie Foundation.
Charlie Foundation.
Charlie Foundation. Um, please don't go anywhere else, folks. um, and then in terms of movement,
Mhm.
I say movement, not exercise, because people can actually, chronic exercise actually can be really bad for you, but frequent movement through the day.
Mm. Okay, so if we're sitting at a desk all day, getting up, sitting down, getting up, sitting down. Got
Yeah.
it.
Every
Okay.
2 to 3 hours, get up and, I don't know, do some jumping jacks or do some push-ups against the kitchen counter or,
Mhm.
bend over, touch your toes or your knees a few times, dance a little. Um, then sleep, of course,
Mhm.
you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and one of the most important phases of sleep for the brain is deep sleep, and that's actually the phase where our brain is cleaning out the toxic waste from the day.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So just to repeat, it is nutrition, movement, sleep,
yeah,
and managing stress.
yes, yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
four things.
And I'm happy to share that I just finished a breath certification course focused on um, self-regulating the nervous system, how
Okay.
to how to fire it up in the morning, how to adjust it during the day. Like if we're in fight or flight, there's some breath
Mhm.
techniques to get it back to the rest, digest, or the calm state. And if we just anytime we need to level set, there's breath work you do in the middle of the day, and
Right.
then breath work to help put you to sleep at night. Very
Okay.
simple, very accessible, doesn't cost any money. And that's the other thing is I'm really focused on um, when I coach people what's right for them given whatever their economic situation is. And I think that's
Ah.
really important is to make this stuff accessible to people.
Mhm. Agreed. Agreed. And I hope maybe after this you can send me the link to your breath work and I'll put it on Facebook too so that people can contact you because I think that is so so important. Like you said, it doesn't cost money for you to breathe, obviously, but it will cost you money in the future if you're not learning how to regulate your own nervous system,
Really.
as we are talking about today. But Mary Lou, I just want to end off with two more questions, as to say, one, what are some of your favorite meals?
Mm.
And two, what are your plans for after the book?
Mm. Okay. So a few of my favorite meals are meals. I for breakfast, I will
Mhm.
take an avocado and a whole avocado and mash it up with I don't know, crushed garlic,
Uh-huh.
Himalayan salt, a little olive oil, maybe a little MCT oil, and I'll just eat that.
Nice.
One of the go-to snacks that I tell my clients about as they're transitioning into a lower carb is
Mhm.
I'll tell them to make small meatballs.
Mhm.
And so instead of breadcrumbs, what I have found to be a really good, I call it uh, a
Right.
binder for the meat instead of breadcrumbs, is to saute onion, shiitake mushrooms, garlic. Can you tell I like garlic? And olive oil. Like chop the onions
Yeah.
and the mushrooms up pretty finely and then mix that in with, I get a grass-fed beef, just
Mhm.
a packaged pound, and mix that together and make those little meatballs. I'll make them on the weekend, and then I have them in the, that helped me really successfully reduce my carb intake. And oh, by the way, in 4 months, I lost 25 pounds just from managing my carbs, and I kept them between 40 and 60 grams. So the
Damn.
other thing I can share with folks is 80% of our body composition is food, 10% is exercise, and 10% is stress management. So there's that expression, you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet. So I say food and body fat first, and the
Mhm.
rest will follow. And my plans after the book are to, so I really lean into this breath work as a first step to help people understand how they can support their nervous system, and
Mhm.
putting together um, uh, some. I'm really interested in corporate wellness and putting together programs for healthy teams, and I think that needs to start with the leaders
Mm.
of teams. Um,
Yeah. Stop stressing your workers out.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my, it's so funny. Sometimes I hear how many like corporate America or corporate Canada horror stories, and I'm just like, wow, that's well, thank you for coming back into our wellness group or
in there.
you yourself too, right?
Yeah.
It's brutal.
And you don't realize it until I had those 2 episodes with my hearing and then my autoimmune immune condition. I We have to stop thinking it's acceptable,
Mm,
and I really want to equip people with how to support themselves. Like I say, anytime, anywhere. So I
right.
actually do a lunch and learn called Boost Your Mood, 5 surefire ways to boost your mood, energy, and happy hormones anytime, anywhere, just to equip people to do that literally even in a meeting, even during a meeting.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mary Lou. I love all of those things. I will reach out to you again to get some of those links so that we could put it on our Facebook page. Thank you to our viewers who have been watching, asking questions. We appreciate you so much. And honestly, this was a really great chat. Thank you so much, Mary Lou, for coming on. This was presented by APSO, Awesome People Shaping Our World. My name is Raisa. Remember, you are awesome and you can make the world a better place. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.